something feels off in Ottawa tonight. Not just the usual tension or partisan noise, something deeper, heavier, like the calm before a political storm no one quite saw coming. Across the country, people are whispering the same question. Did Alberta just take a step too far, or did they finally do what everyone else was too afraid to try? While Prime Minister Mark Carney is halfway across the world on his Asia tour, meetings with finance ministers and trade officials, something back home has quietly started to unravel. Sources in the capital are reportedly scrambling, trying to verify a series of late-night reports that suggest Alberta's government, led by Premier Danielle Smith, has struck what's being described as a bold, or even unprecedented, economic understanding with key figures in the United States. And if what's being discussed behind closed doors turns out to be true, it could shift the entire balance of power between Ottawa, Edmonton, and Washington. Now, here's where things get strange. Officially, no one in Ottawa is saying a word. No press release, no statement, not even a quick quote from a government spokesperson. It's silence, the kind that almost confirms more than it hides. Meanwhile, U.S. media outlets have been unusually active, hinting that something significant just crossed the border, though no one's putting their name on it yet. Danielle Smith, who's been walking a fine line between provincial autonomy and outright rebellion for months, has long hinted that Alberta needs to stop, waiting for Ottawa's permission. And tonight, it seems she might have turned those words into something much more tangible. Some insiders are calling it the boldest provincial play in modern Canadian history. Others are calling it reckless. But whatever it is, it's caught Ottawa flat-footed, and the timing couldn't be worse for Mark Carney. Remember, Carney isn't even in the country right now. He's still in Singapore, where he's been meeting with Asian investors to pitch a new green investment framework. He's expected back tomorrow. But the problem is, by the time he lands, Alberta might already have rewritten the rules of engagement. Let's back up for a second. Over the past few months, relations between Alberta and the federal government have grown increasingly strained. Carbon pricing fights, energy regulation disputes, the pension exit controversy, and then Trump's sudden trade overtures to individual provinces, something that's technically outside his authority, but politically brilliant. Alberta, being resource-rich and increasingly defiant, has always been the prime candidate for a move like this. Now, imagine the optics. A province, not the federal government, allegedly in discussions with the White House about energy supply, pipeline access, and joint development incentives. If this were to materialize, it wouldn't just challenge Ottawa's control over trade, it would shatter the long-held understanding that only the federal government represents Canada abroad. And yet, here we are. No confirmation. No denial. Just the uneasy quiet of political chess being played at a level most Canadians never get to see. In Washington, President Trump has been vocal for months about wanting direct partnerships with what he calls America's energy allies in the North. He's made no secret of his admiration for Alberta's oil sands industry, calling it the key to North American independence. But it's one thing to talk, it's another to sign. And if something resembling a preliminary framework has indeed been discussed, even informally, it could be the biggest crack yet in Canada's fragile federal unity. Ottawa insiders, when pressed tonight, reportedly said only that the Prime Minister is being briefed. No one will say on what. But the tone of the response, sharp, tense, defensive, says a lot. It suggests this wasn't planned. What's even more intriguing is how quickly Alberta's leadership team went dark. No media appearances, no leaks from the legislature, not even the usual social media bravado. The silence itself feels deliberate, like a province that knows it's sitting on something explosive. One Alberta insider described the situation as a moment we've been preparing for. Another reportedly said, "If Ottawa won't act, we will." Those words alone tell you how far the political temperature has risen. But think about the symbolism of the moment. The Prime Minister abroad, pitching Canada's green energy vision to Asian investors, while back home, the heart of Canada's oil economy might be cutting its own deal with the United States. It's a split screen that perfectly captures the divide that's been building for years between the East and the West, between Carney's technocratic globalism and Smith's populist regionalism. For years, Alberta politicians have complained that Ottawa doesn't understand their economic realities. That federal climate goals come at the expense of jobs, that national policy always seems to mean Ontario and Quebec first. This new alleged deal, whatever form it takes, could be Alberta's way of forcing the issue, of saying, if you won't include us, we'll act without you. Of course, there's risk here. A move like this, if it's as bold as it sounds, could provoke a constitutional showdown. The federal government has exclusive control over international relations, at least on paper. But if Alberta has found a way to work around that, perhaps through private sector intermediaries or state-level partnerships in the U.S., then Ottawa's authority might not be as absolute as it once seemed. And that's what has everyone in the capital on edge tonight. Because even if this so-called agreement never becomes official policy, the message it sends is unmistakable. Alberta no longer fears Ottawa's reaction. Mark Carney's office has yet to release any statement. Insiders say he's been briefed while still abroad, but that he intends to address the matter upon his return tomorrow. If true, that means his first act back on Canadian soil could be dealing with what might become the biggest provincial challenge to federal control in decades. Meanwhile, President Trump, known for his unpredictability, has reportedly made several off-the-record comments praising Alberta's courage to act in its own interest. And while those remarks haven't been confirmed officially, they've been enough to send diplomatic staff in both countries scrambling for clarity. Now, let's be clear, no one has confirmed the details of what's actually been discussed or signed. Everything so far remains in the realm of speculation, leaked memos, and quiet panic. But the pattern is unmistakable. The Prime Minister abroad, the provinces restless, the U.S. watching closely, and a growing sense that the old playbook just doesn't work anymore. By tomorrow morning, we'll likely hear some kind of official response, maybe from the Prime Minister's office, maybe from Alberta's legislature. But whatever's said, the political damage is already done. Because tonight, for the first time in a long time, Ottawa doesn't look like it's in control. Whether this is a calculated move or a dangerous gamble, Alberta has sent a message that echoes far beyond the prairies. If Ottawa won't lead, someone else will. And as the Prime Minister's plane makes its way back from Asia, there's one question hanging over the entire country: what happens when he lands? Will he confront Alberta's defiance head-on, or try to downplay it as political theater? Either choice carries risk. The truth is, no one really knows what's coming next. But whatever unfolds over the next 24 hours could redefine Canada's political landscape for years to come.